what could you do for the world if you are financially, physically, and mentally strong?
Lori Olson is the owner of the Beauty Boost Houston, which holds events for women to feel empowered, healthy, and beautiful. She joins us today to discuss why women often feel pressured to care more about others than themselves, and how they can use self-care to actually be more selfless in the long run. If you enjoyed the information shared in today's conversation, please leave a review and comment letting us know. Welcome to Only the Greatest Podcast. If you're feeling stuck and unsure what to do next in your fitness journey, we might be what you're looking for. My name is Philip. I own and operate OTG Fitness, which is a private personal training gym on the south side of Houston in Webster. I do this podcast every week with my best friend, Daryl. We've been friends since third grade and working out together ever since. Also joining us today will be Sean. He's the one that makes this podcast not only sound great, but look good as well. Our goal here is to help Houston make its way up the ladder of health and fitness. So if you're in the Houston area and ready to become the greatest version of yourself, be sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Lori, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So I figured we'd just kind of get right to it and tell us, why have you decided to exclusively work with women in your business?
The Beauty Boost was really curated and made to serve women originally. I am obviously representing Houston in that way. But the reason we do that is because that way we can embrace women with their unique demographic, with unique set of needs, exclusively to them. And it creates just much more of an opportunity to connect, to feel supported, to feel empowered, and make it a safe place, and really be able to be more open and empowered, and bring in experts that really help serve their unique needs versus trying to serve everyone. I mean, I know they've always said that if you try and talk to everyone, you're really talking to no one. Mm-hmm. And so when we hone in on just women, we're really trying to serve these types of women that really value personal care, community, relationships, friendships, health and wellness, and be able to really grow in those areas in a way that is unique to us as women.
Yeah, very cool. There's definitely, obviously I work in personal training. Mm-hmm. Usually personal training, I don't know if you know this or not, but personal training as a whole is usually dominated by women. I think because me as a male, I am kind of the face of our marketing for the most part. So we have a pretty even split of men and women, but I've definitely seen the differences in the things that they struggle with, the problems that they have between men and women. They're definitely very different. And I think that women really want to hear from other women sometimes. And I think it makes a big difference when they have that community for sure. And men are the same way in our own way.
Well, true.
You know.
I mean, I was just talking to my husband last night about, I think it was just like the time for whatever, getting ready, hair, I go, you wouldn't understand. He goes, you're right, I wouldn't. I'm like, well, I guess you do have to shave your face. He goes, which is still nothing.
Yeah, it's more like once a week, or for me. Yeah.
So it's just, there's just so many things that make, that we just want to be extremely relatable. And also we get into some serious, personal stuff. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that disclosure would never happen if there were men in the room.
And do you feel like a lot of times maybe some people, or today we're talking about women, right? So mm-hmm. Do you feel like men also probably, if they're not in that community of comfort, that they continue to hold things inside?
Oh, absolutely. I would.
Yeah. And then,
I do.
And do you see it compounding over time as well? And this is just me kind of thinking this through. Mm-hmm. If I don't talk about something that I know needed to be talked about, whether it's with a spouse, an employee, maybe a coworker of any kind, that thing compounds inside of you. And it gets worse. So on day one, it's scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 6. Mm-hmm. And then day 30, it's a 7.
Right.
3 months later, it's an 8. A year later, it's a 10. And this is probably why relationships fail and stuff like that. So have you seen a big difference in that coming out and then people just
Yes,
Like that easiness.
over time. I mean, we do events every single month. And so we have different women there all the time too, that had just found out about us, or, they can come to some events and not others, or they come and it is their jam or it isn't their jam, right? And then we have a separate group of people who buy what we call a year pass because it is somewhere they want to be and they want a closer connection and repetitive like exposure to these women. And our ambassadors, same thing, because they want that tighter relationship. So I also do like kind of ambassador and member meetups exclusively too, because I know that those women are there because they want exactly that, right? They want that tighter connection. They want that closer bond. As we've, as they get to know each other, I mean, no one just like discloses a lot of things until you really feel safe, right? Mm-hmm. And the way that we create that safe space is either through repetitive community connection, but also I've seen it in just bringing in experts or people whose niche is, women's hormones or women's health or pelvic floor, right? And when they go do what we call an experience station with that person, or even if they're a speaker in the room, somehow we've created that cohesiveness that I'm amazed. And we start laughing, there's like personal things. One of our therapists that's been on a panel also, she gets really into sex therapy too. So people get more open than I would have guessed in an open room like that, but it never would be that way if you didn't create that specific culture and community and you just left it open to anyone, including other sexes or even people with different values, So we're very specific on who this woman is versus, the tagline is women, right? But when you get to know us and you see our brand on Instagram and who we are, it's very clear that we value self-care, we value health and wellness, or people who want to take better care of themselves, natural beauty, empowerment. And if that's not your jam, you're probably not going to see you there.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it's deeper than just women, right? Because even if I'm in a group of guys, and so I'm into health and fitness, right? We probably share a lot of the same interests, right? When it comes to food, exercise, I like to talk about that stuff, right?
Right.
But if I'm in a group of guys and I know that they're over there eating nachos, I don't feel like I can be my full self with that person. So, when you're in this group, even though just, gender, sex is one thing, but also, like you said, same values.
Yes, absolutely.
More things kind of start to spill out of you.
Yes. And that was part of the reason that I, when I learned about it, wanted to do it because I moved here just a few years ago. And it takes, you can meet people, which I did. I was in networking groups for my, what I do in my other business, and met people just through life and through your kids. But they, and I can like them, but it doesn't mean I'm going to be hanging out with them, right? I can completely respect someone who has a little bit different values than I do as, even if it's not 100%, they don't have to be just like me. But I also wanted to find my friends.
Sure.
Right.
And find your tribe type of thing.
Yes. Find my tribe and people who yes, I get you. I like that. Right. And I think the world goes around with all different perspectives and different types of people, but you can still be on, which I'm growing too. My background is a teacher and then a counselor before I got into health and wellness and some of the things that I do. But you're always a student as well. And so I am growing myself because I'm surrounded with people who are experts in all different kinds of areas that that may tie into wellness, but you could just be forever learning, So it's expanded my horizons while being with people who have similar values.
Do you ever get surprised at some of the things that people will come out and say? Like when you get in these tight-knit groups, how long have you been doing this?
Not quite a year.
Oh, okay. So it's still fairly new. So maybe on a somewhat regular basis,
Yeah.
maybe do you hear some things where you're just like,
Well, it depends on the event. Some of our events, like some of them are socials and it's more one-on-one. But then, like I said, when I was explaining earlier, some of the things like even with the sex therapist and the things that came out, I mean, that was a panel and we probably had 50 women in there, but they're raising their hands, and saying, do you ever have, maybe we're talking about sex therapy, but talking about their kids that are not heterosexual and dealing with that. But I mean, we don't even know them and they're raising their hand about something very personal, So to me, that is, and different, like I said, aspects that are comical to us. And it not only creates a safe space for that person raising their hand, but it's really a compliment to some of those women on the panel and the business owners that are truly opening themselves up to create that space and making these women feel comfortable getting to know them and possibly working with them in the future.
Yeah, it's very important that no one hold things inside that they really want to say. And I've been, in and out of therapy my whole life for various reasons. My mom died very young from health-related things, and that's a big reason that I'm such an advocate for fitness. And, as people, if we're not in a comfortable enough environment, we hold these things inside, and they almost turn us into people that we really don't want to be. They can completely change who we are. They change our relationships. They affect the things we say. Sometimes we say things we don't really mean. And then you feel bad about that, but you get so caught up in it because you're still in a bad environment where you just beat yourself up about it. And it's like this compound effect where we talked about a second ago, the compound effect of talking about it, how freeing it is. Well, it works the other direction as well. If you hold it in, now you beat yourself up. And next thing you know, depression and all those things, all those types of things, set in. But just to kind of change it up a little bit, something that we talked about on the phone the other day, you were talking about how women oftentimes sell themselves short. And I was just I wanted to dig into that a little bit. Why do you think that happens? What exactly do you mean by that? And then I might have some follow-up questions as well.
Yeah, from, I guess, looking at where I'm at now, kind of a young adult age, I started noticing this. I started out, like I said, as a teacher, and then I was a school counselor, and then I realized I wanted to be more of an entrepreneurial role. And so anyway, when I was in this company that I was working for and we had conferences coming up and stuff, this was right before I had kids, but some of the women I was working with had children, and they were like not going to the conferences, not going to the events. And I was like, why can't you go? Why aren't you going? And I mean, like, they were fun and cool locations and stuff. And it was usually that they couldn't leave their kids with their spouse. They couldn't take care of them or wouldn't, or I've never left my kids before. And so it's a double-edged sword. I mean, you could say that in some situations, it's the spouse not holding, not being an adult and being a parent, but sometimes women maybe unintentionally enable them, right? In the fact that they just always have done it. And so now they've never had a chance, right? So when I saw that, I was like, whoa, I don't want to have kids if that's the way it is. I have so many things I want to do with my life. And I had that conversation with my husband before we ever had kids. So in some ways, maybe it was good that we waited or had to wait a little bit longer. But I think it really is, I was just using that example. And this was not 25, I'm not that old. Maybe 18, 19 years ago. And there were still such strong gender roles, in the fact that, and stereotypically that the wife or the mom, or either that or they were trying to fit into what either possibly he had growing up and the way things worked in his family, or she saw in her family, or possibly both. But it didn't really seem like there was an in-between of how do we work together versus my main role is to do this. So I feel that they sometimes sell themselves short because of past experiences, stereotypes, gender roles, and just don't always see the balance of being able to be both.
Mm-hmm. Specifically in the in the event, and I don't have kids too, so this is coming from a perspective of someone that doesn't have kids. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking about that role as they never let the spouse even try, Do you think they're doing it on purpose to protect the kid? Is it just like inside of them because of the past experiences? Like, what do you think's going on there?
I don't know that it's always that. It is that sometimes, or it's truly the fault of the spouse, right? And
that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah. Well, that's what we always like to blame it on. Everyone wants to throw the usually the husband, right? Let's just say under the bus. They're working, but that's the way it used to be all the time, right? Even when I grew up, the mom stayed at home, the dad went to work, and he had to work all day, so she should clean, she should cook, she should take care of the kids. For the most part, all the time, and be the most. Really, it was mom versus. And even my husband, other people say their dads were less involved. It's not always, but at the age I am, it was pretty normal, right? So that's what we're usually saying, and it's true, probably sometimes, and maybe more in the past. But I saw it where I think that women take it upon themselves. Here's a perfect example. I did this myself without even realizing it. I remember when my son was young, my husband was working a lot, right? I was working in business from home, but home doing most of the stuff. Then when he was home, I just did everything. It was basically a micromanager kind of. And he's like, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to be part of the team. I'm like, this is just what we do. This is how we do it. And I kind of enabled him that if he didn't really push it, most guys would be like, okay, she's got it. I guess I'll just put my hands up.
Kind of skip the middleman and just go.
I'm just not going to do it. She does it. So I'll just sit here, and do my own thing. And sometimes we think they're, you can say that someone's lazy because they're just waiting to get in the car and you did everything else. And the woman is like, oh, I'm so exhausted. I mean, you do nothing. And we don't know the situation, but there are times, did you give them the opportunity to help?
Yeah, you used the word enabler. So you were enabling him to, quote unquote, do nothing.
Yeah.
What did it take for you to realize you were doing that? Like, was it a specific moment, or did you just slowly but surely, like maybe when the kids got a little older, you look back? Like, how did that come to fruition?
No, at the moment, he said, I don't feel part of the team.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so was it possibly your spouse even, during that time too?
Yeah, he was like, I want to be part of the family and the team. The team is the actual word that he said.
Wow.
And that's really what took me back, is that I was just skipping over him, really, And then you can get mad about that. Then there's times, everything he follows. And women love to do this too. Would you like to feed him? Would you like to change his First, we're wanting him to say, yes, I would love to, right? And I remember I asked him that once, and I was holding things inside. Like you said, it's the first child, just telling you guys, right? It rocks your world, right? And because your freedom is sort of ripped from you. And the mom, and appropriately, I was the one home when he was working. But then when he would be home, I'd say, do you want to feed him? And I remember him going, no, not really, just honest answer, right? And I just threw everything down and walked out the door. And I was like, that's it. I want to go to counseling. And it wasn't just that thing, obviously, right? Somehow things were building up for me. And maybe it wasn't really his fault, or I felt overwhelmed, right? And he said, and my husband is a counselor. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so he said, okay. And he opened up the phone book, and we went once, and we really just needed that kind of reality check, and stuff. For that, we went once. But I remember my son was 10 months old, his first year, first child, and a lot of things changed. But it's very impacting years on how's that going to go. Are you going to kind of work it out and find your balance and how you work together as a team, so to speak? Or are you just going to keep doing everything and tolerating? They're either tolerating or they're enabling, and they don't know they are. I think a lot of women truly feel they're tolerating, but if they would say something early, they maybe could skip over that. And once it's been years down the road, the guy's kind of like, what just happened?
Yeah, it gets harder the longer that it goes on.
Because he's so used to the other way. Yeah, he's so used to the other way. Now it's like, all right, I want you to clean the dishes. And he's like, what? I've never done that before.
Yeah. The other one is getting up with the baby.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. I can see that one.
Yeah, I remember. So we did have that. And again, there's that hard thing because they got to get up and go to work, right? And maybe you're able to stay home. But then when you have two, it's like, well, I'm not going to sleep either today, but I know you have to be more on, so there's always that tug of war as well, but maybe it's the weekends, or certain days. But I remember I was like, with my second child, I was like, I'm getting this down, this sleep thing. I'm reading a book. That was torture before for both of us. It's the hardest thing, I think, of having a baby.
Sleep part?
Yeah. The sleep deprivation. And then, she was sleeping really good. And then all of a sudden she started waking up all the time, like at 7 and 8 months. I think she was going through a growth spurt. She would just drink the bottle and go to bed. Anyway, I was getting up over and over and I didn't say anything. And then he said, I will get up with her. I should have done it a while ago. But if someone else is doing it.
But the team conversation happened with your first child,
right?
Yeah,
with the first child. Yeah. But this was just all of a sudden. I mean, he always,
Every now and then you got to call a little timeout, kind of regroup.
All of a sudden things change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Things change. And I'm like, and I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Because it was fine. It wasn't that bad. She was going back to sleep, but he was seeing it. You start pretty soon. If you're like, this is what we said we were going to do, you have, guilt will take over too. Right. Yeah. And I don't know, there's those situations that come up constantly in your relationship. And I'm sure that there's women listening to this that are like, I'm not even married or I'm a single mom. I have to do it all. There's that situation as well. I was thinking about that before we even came.
Yeah, I'd like to definitely dig deeper on that, but I do have one question real quick before we go on to that. You said that a lot of times you might be in a situation of enabling or tolerating.
Yeah.
And for you, it was your husband that spoke up and said, hey, let me be a part of this team.
Yeah.
But if someone is going through that situation right now, they're enabling or they're tolerating, and let's be honest, they probably know it, but they're just like, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Well, let's say they heard you say that, like, okay, I want to do something about this.
Right.
How did that conversation go with your husband? And then what do you think is the best way to approach this conversation is getting a third party counselor super important? Can it be done without it? Like how do you advise that we kind of approach that type of conversation?
Was it necessary in that situation? Probably not, you know, but when we went to that counseling situation, I did, tears were shed, and having that mediator was helpful, and me feeling safe to express how I felt and that my feelings were validated because the counselor validated them, right? Versus it allows, so it's not such a fight, or something like that. But I guess for me, I would just approach it in that, I want to talk to you about something. I should have probably brought it up a while ago, but I haven't. This is how I'm feeling. I've learned through counseling, because I was a counselor too, but my husband reminds me, you can't say you can, but it's not accurate to say you make me feel a certain way, because we're in control of our feelings. No one can make us feel a certain way. We can share how we actually do feel. When this happens, I feel, abused or,
unheard
or something like that. I feel, because most of the time they're not trying to make you feel that way, right? But we chose to feel a certain way. I think that's one of the most important things, to not cause an argument, because it feels more validated if I just said, I feel uncomfortable in this situation, versus you make me feel uncomfortable when you do that. Whereas it's never usually probably intentional.
Right. Most people are good.
Yes.
Right.
Assuming you feel that your spouse is a good person.
That's
right. We have to always just assume that. If you're in a different situation, you also know that you need to step outside, to do something different or get some help. But assuming you're in a good situation, you want to keep this relationship going for the sake of the good relationship. Just like, I'd really like to talk to you about something. This is how I'm feeling. That's how I would start it. And if it's really that much conflict and there's no resolution, then you might need to go to a counselor. And if they're not willing to do that, that's also a sign.
That's a red flag, right?
That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Now, maybe if you said, like I did, let's just go to counseling, and I didn't even give them a chance to talk about it, that might not necessarily be a red flag. But I think, I was young and it's hard to know how to have those conversations
Sure.
sometimes, So
experience is very important. So that's why we're here now talking about your experience and how
I never could have given those suggestions back when I was 25,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And, I can relate a little bit, not necessarily in a relationship or in a relationship, but not in the same context. And the context that I deal with is a lot of times I'll be talking to women, men as well, but today we're talking about women, right? So maybe I'll be talking to a female, they're married, they want to lose weight, they want to get in shape, and I'm talking to them about their diet. And I'm like, all right, well, let's talk about the household.
Yeah.
And if the husband is not on board with changing the eating habits, or vice versa, if I'm talking to a man and the wife is not on board with changing eating habits, it's tough. And so what I always recommend, and it sounds like we're kind of on the same page about this, what I always recommend is that they have the conversation separate from the time when it's an issue. It's
before the meal.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
before the Brussels sprouts and chicken.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
let's not be in the Chicken Express line, like talking about diets.
Yeah. Or it needs to happen before he asks you to go out to eat and you say no. I'm not doing that anymore. That's not the right time to have the conversation. It's kind of like I always say when you get that text, hey, can I ask you something? And you're like, oh, and you're like worried about it. And like, but you know that it's, at least it's a serious, and I'm not saying to text your partner and ask them, you need to ask them in person, but it's that same feeling. You don't want to wait until they ask you, hey, let's go to, you want to just grab some Whataburger tonight? That's not the time to say no. Hey, can we talk about it?
Right.
You need to do it before then. So don't wait until in your situation, don't wait until there's a conflict to have the conversation.
Yeah. And if that's when I did it. There's a conflict. Luckily, it sort of worked out. But that's just like, knee-jerk reaction, really. But since someone's listening, to this now, just think, okay, I'm going to either do it now, or if I don't get it done before the conflict, I'm going to pause, which is always better, right? When you get in an argument with a friend or a spouse, sometimes you just need time to cool off before you launch into the conversation. Usually you say things you don't mean when you're in the heat of the moment. So.
Yes. Yeah. That it just slips out. Emotions are high, and then sometimes what can happen is you say something you didn't mean. And now that's the only statement that person locks into.
Oh, totally.
And then they just think
about. You said this.
Yeah. And they don't think about the years of the caring and the years of the I love yous. And they think about that one.
You said the one worst thing that you could have possibly ever said.
And sometimes when the emotion's high, you want to get a rouse out of them. And I'm not saying that you do it on purpose, but it just happens, But earlier you were mentioning like maybe someone is like a single mom and in that case, they feel like they have to do everything, or they actually do. It's more than, it's not a feeling, it's the reality.
Yeah.
And you said a statement when we were chatting the other day, you said that a lot of women feel like they have to be Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
What, kind of similar to how I asked you the question earlier, but where does that come from? If they are a single mom and they do have to do everything, how do they relieve that pressure of having to feel like they have to be Wonder Woman and do everything so perfect, save the day, every single minute of every single day? Like, what's going on there, and how do we do something about it?
And I think it happens even also with, women, since women are in careers now, right? So you're in a career, you want to be doing really well at that. You're also, this great mom with your kids, your house is spotless, the meals are done. Relationship with husband, sex life is great. Like, that's what social media makes it seem that that's what it is, because we post pictures on holidays. We have something, we can post a picture of anything and make our life seem like whatever we want it to seem like, right? And so, I'm sort of going around your question, but I think that people have that in their head because social media has also created that. I just saw someone post something the other day that, remember, social media is fake. Enjoy your real life. And I kind of, I'm on there quite a bit that I'm like, I'm not fake.
Yeah, you like take offense to it
at first, but then I'm like, you know what? It is fake. And not that it didn't happen, but that's not what everyday life looks like for any of us, right? So how does it get done? Like, to a single mom, like, why do they carry that? Was that your original question? Why do
they feel this pressure?
Because I think we have the societal norms and past, like I talked about earlier, that women just do. And we feel like we still have to live up to that. But now we have this career thing going on as well. And if we're a single mom, we're for sure have a job or a career, right? And if we're not, well, with how much things cost anymore, we probably right? We probably do, unless you're in a rare situation, which is fantastic. But even so, let's just even say that, your husband provides financially for the family. You definitely see yourself in these roles with your children, or cleaning or cooking or whatever they are that you've, decided. I still think every woman should have something for themselves, even if it's not bringing financial, even if it has nothing to do with finances, whether it's voluntary or something that empowers them, or whatever. And so sometimes we can pull away from those things just because, again, we feel that we need to be focusing more on the other things. But I truly believe that social media and what we think people are doing is why we feel the pressure. I'm just going to use myself for example. I'm super transparent about the fact that I don't hold my weight domestically very, very well at all at home. And I've told women that and even posted about it and what my husband does to support the family and what we have our kids do, because I want to take that pressure off. I would not be able to run the Beauty Boost Houston, the level that I want to, and my past businesses as well, and achieve the levels of, that I have, if I also felt it was a necessity that I was the one that did all the cleaning, the cooking, that got my kids to every single event, whatever you want to put under that umbrella. It wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So it's all, priorities and agreements you have to have within your household. Having dual incomes and both of us achieving is very important to both of us. Our kids are also very important to us, not just to me. So if you have dual agreement on what priorities are within your family, and then even again going back to, then you share, right? You share the roles, but then even going back to someone who's a single mom, if she's super, she's a high achiever or has things that she's holding back and she knows so, but it's like, how can I even do this with my responsibilities being the only one at home? There's help outside of spouses. Spouses aren't the only people to help. Some people have a spouse that doesn't help, right? So I think that the biggest thing is why is it wrong to ask for help? Ask for help.
Yeah, I think that's
It's hard for women to ask for, maybe men too, but I know it's hard for women to ask for help.
I think it's especially hard to ask for help for a role that is assumed you can take care of. And when you made that statement to me that most women feel the need to be Wonder Woman each and every day, the first thing that went through my mind is probably because there's a social standard that they have to uphold with, the household, the kids type of situation. But the reality,
the in-laws, what is everyone thinking if you have your husband doing that instead of you, or you're not doing it and you had someone else help do it,
Even for women, the fact what the clothes that they wear every day. Like if they don't dress up, people might think that I don't care about.
They don't want to be seen.
Yeah. And things like that. Yeah. And so my first thought was that they have all these social norms that they have to withhold. But now, and like in today's society here in America, right? It's almost necessary for them to hold down the work side of things as well.
Oh yeah.
And so the social norms, that pressure is there. So they have to fulfill that because of social pressure. But then the reality is that they also have to work and do these other things that maybe in the past weren't social norms. So now they have this double duty. And men, as long as they're bringing home the money,
they don't have
fine.
that.
They don't have the other side.
Yeah, right. That was a perfect way to really say it. So society has completely changed, right? Our world has changed from back. So the roles need to change as well. And I think that I feel lucky that I saw the conflict arising before we had children, that I was like, well, A, I want to be doing these things. And B, even when I feel bad about it, because you will, that there is guilt. You're always going to have a little bit of it, right? That whether it's that I have someone else helping or a spouse helping or I can't be at something. Moms have a hard time not being at everything. That you have to think about. I think sometimes we skip over all the good that we're doing with our work and our career and providing for our family. Not only providing, but what kind of role model do you want to be for your child? Do you want them to think that they too should simply fulfill all those roles and try and be Wonder Woman and have, if you're feeling stressed out and, you know, like you can't do it all and life is hard and a struggle, if you or I keep doing that, that is the image we are creating for our children to live.
Isn't it funny how we judge ourselves so differently than others? So if you were to view, like you said, you're comparing it to their kids. If they were to see their children doing that, it'd be like, you'd want to cut it off, but we'll continue to let it do it to ourselves all day long. And when I'm talking to women, especially in the gym, like from talking about getting started in their fitness, a little saying, you can like tell me what you think about this, but a lot of women are extremely selfless. They always think about others before themselves. And that may be from a cultural past societal norm where it's their duty to take care of children and take care of their husband from like the personal side of things and stuff like that. I'm not sure. But what I always tell them is that if you can just be a little bit more selfish now, you can later become more selfless.
Yes.
But it's very hard to accept that. You know, in me saying that, like, what do you think is going through someone's head? Like, do you think that's really resonating with them?
Oh, I see it. I know men that are, women are traditionally, but I mean, there's men that come to mind that do the same thing. They're very giving and stuff, but they come last. Their health is poor usually. Their mental health is not good typically. And so I know it's hard to see, but long term, your kids, let's just say it's kids, right? That's why they send you selfless. How they're going to have to be working really hard to take care of you, possibly at a very young age or younger than it should be, because you didn't take care of yourself, right? So do you want them? I mean, that's one that would work for a woman, right? To be like, do you want that burden to be heavy, you know, for them? Because you not taking care of yourself could definitely create that. But in the other sense, it's when we feel, it's just the whole thing of, they always say you can't serve from an empty cup. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? So I have to. So I'm just going to use myself as a personal example. I'm not mentally as on if I don't exercise in the morning, if I don't have, or that day for sure, or on a regular basis. I'm not able to keep up physically with different things I could do, so I can't do as many things to be able to serve more people. I would get fatigued easier. So because I haven't put enough good nutrition in my body, I would be getting sick more often because I don't have very good nutrition in my body. So when you look at all those things that can start happening, is that you're actually not serving well. You can serve better, you can serve broader, and you can serve for a longer period of time when you have taken that, whatever it is, 1 hour a day to serve yourself, and throughout the day planned your food, your meals. Does it need to be perfect? God, I'm far from that, right?
Yeah, right.
I love it. You said nachos earlier. I was like, I like nachos. What?
I was just like, it's just the first, sorry. It was just like the first thing that came to my mind. I was thinking about like sitting in a bowling alley, like eating some nachos, you know?
And beer, and like that's the mainstay, right? Like we always say the Beauty Boost girl loves to have a drink and a cocktail, but also, you know, is that balance, right? Or something like that. But I think that people underestimate for sure that when they are truly being selfless, it can be detrimental, right? If we're truly not, especially when we're not taking up our mental, physical health, or even financial health for that matter, right? Even when there's opportunities for them to create more income, they don't, because they're like, well, I don't need the money. other people, I don't need more money. I can live on less. But what if you had more money? Could you give more? Mm-hmm. What could you do for the world if you are financially, physically, and mentally strong?
Yes, I agree 100%. And these are all things that I say. The one thing that I think I'm even going to steal from you that you said in that was, if you don't take care of yourself now, the burden of responsibility to the kids is going to come onto them sooner. Yes. Because your health is declining faster. Mm-hmm. And that,
which can create financial burden as well.
Oh, 100%.
And then you don't have the finances either.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing to be someone that's, working as well and hard as possible, and you are where you are, but to pass up opportunities that can create more abundance, whether it's physical, emotional, or financial, mm-hmm. is really sad.
Yeah, you mentioned, getting your workout in. Mm-hmm. So obviously we mostly do fitness, right? Yeah. So I was curious about like the strength training side of your, equation of your fitness life. Like, do you hit the weights? Do you do a lot of resistance training, strength training? If so, maybe just a couple minutes as to maybe why women shouldn't be afraid of that. Because sometimes it's crazy to me that people still believe this. That women shouldn't lift weights and shouldn't strength train, but they do. So can you just tell us real quick what you do, and then, why is strength training so important for women?
It's funny that I just have to address what you said, because I wrote a post not that long ago that said, okay, ladies, saying that lifting weights is going to create you to be big and bulky is like saying if you get in a car, you're going to be a NASCAR driver. Right?
So true.
So do you have any idea how hard these people work in order to create that kind of muscle? Plus you have very little testosterone. Yeah. So, it does take time though, right? To kind of see that, because we always think women are all doing the cardio, which is important as well, mm-hmm. For your heart health and things like that. But gosh, I'm trying to remember, when I first got into weight training, because I do every single week, I'm hitting the weights and most every day in the gym. And I truly believe that my physical fitness has direct correlation to my confidence, and what I've achieved in life and my determination, because I think it is so valuable to do something hard every freaking day of your life. Now, does it get easier? Actually, no, you just get better, right? You just get stronger. The weights didn't get any lighter, so you just get stronger. So when you make yourself keep getting stronger, or even maintain that strength, that's what I think. Sometimes when I'm doing like a HIIT workout, I'm like, damn, how do I get this done every day? If I can do this, right, then I can call that person mm-hmm. that I'm not calling. This phone is way lighter than what I'm doing, but but it also makes you mentally capable, mentally strong, mm-hmm. and you have that, I guess, just a different posture about you. But going into the weights, I guess, just learning I try and educate on this as well, that learning that the more, especially as women get older and they think it's harder to lose weight, that it's really, we're not looking at weight loss. I'm like, we are going for fat loss. We are not going for weight loss, right? Because weight is like, you could be losing muscle at the same time. And why don't we want to do that? And all of these things, but maybe it'll be different coming from a woman.
Exactly.
If you want your metabolism if you want to raise your metabolism or speed up your metabolism, you need more muscle on your body, right? Because it burns more calories at rest. So if you want to be able to sit on your butt and be burning calories, you will burn more if you have more muscle on your body. If you want less cellulite, ladies, you need muscle, right, on your body. And so really you're just trying to change your body composition versus like the number on the scale.
Right.
So I think that the reason that maybe some women think that they're going to get big and bulky is because if you've seen that before and it's not a look that you like especially the bigger part, most of the time there's just some extra fat to lose, right? So if you pay attention to your body composition, the size that you're wearing, and trust the process with your trainer, you're eating high protein, and don't rely on the scale, which I've had to just because I've done health and wellness too, or do, that the scale can be, I mean, I always just say the scale is a liar in some, in some situations. And I get that it's good accountability sometimes too, because that number rising is like, I need to reel it back in. But I think that the scale does more damage mentally than it does. Cause I can just like, go put on your jeans that you know how they fit. And that will tell you better than the scale. The scale just tells you your weight. It doesn't tell you how much body fat's on your body, if you have water retention, how much muscle's on your body, any of those things. So I personally used to live the life of getting on the scale every day. And I didn't have one in my house. And I know people who have them that used to, this, I don't know if they still do, in their house, in their kitchen, like they're weighing themselves multiple times a day. I'm like, yeah, the fact that you weigh more after you eat surprises you?
Yeah, people are surprised. They're like, I gained 3 pounds. People still tell me this. I gained 3 pounds today. Well, did you eat food and drink water? They're like, yeah.
Yeah.
those things have weight to them for sure.
But that's not your actual, body composition, right? That's important. So to me, it's been, or if I get on and like, I'm pleasantly surprised that I was down, then I'm having a good day.
Right.
How messed up is that? Right. Or opposite, right? I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Then all of a sudden I'm mentally and even sabotage possibly how I eat that day.
Yeah. It's
right?
Emotional instability.
Yes. So I just don't. I just do not have a scale. I don't use it. I don't know. I mean, I know how much I probably weigh.
Sure.
But I just don't have a scale. I go by my clothing. I go by how I feel. I go by my digestion, all of those things to know. And what I know already, works.
The way that you feel is very important. I'm big on digestion personally as well. That's a big part of it. I think people eat food that often causes their digestion to be slow or kind of, that kind of weirdness. And that's why people feel, tired and stuff throughout the day. And what you'll hear men say, hey, bro, I'm not trying to look like Arnold.
Yeah. Good luck.
Good luck. Nobody said you were. And same with women. What I often tell women is if they see these crazy physiques that they don't want to be, well, if you're doing it naturally.
Yes.
Right. It's likely never going to happen unless you're a crazy genetics and you have extra help, you know what I mean? That these things are not going to
and just coming to do it 3 times a week with you as a trainer or whatever is, and women love to say, I'll say, because they don't want to say they need to lose weight, maybe, or they know they don't really need to lose weight. They just want to be toned.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say tone up.
Toned. I go, okay. Yeah. So tone up means you want to lose fat.
Yes.
And you want to either keep your muscle, possibly even gain a little muscle to replace the fat, right?
I just talked to a woman, a female this morning about that. We were discussing, she kept using the word tone, and I anytime women always use that word. And so I don't stop them. I let them finish their thought. And then I'd be like, well, you mentioned that you wanted to tone. And let me just remind you that toning means nothing more than losing a little bit of body fat and gaining a little bit of muscle mass. Mm-hmm. That's all that toning is. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about it that way, you're like, oh, yeah, I guess if I lost.
And you can't tone just doing leg lifts.
No.
With no weight, you know? I mean, there's just so many, like, go back to society of what it used to be in the leotards and all these women at home, like, doing these side leg lifts and stuff. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you do it long enough, it's exhausting and it does work, But just because the weight is, my husband used to say this to me when I first started lifting weights, like, I'd pick up, he claims, maybe 5 pounds or less dumbbells. I don't remember this happening. He goes, Lori, just go and open and close some doors if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to come here for that, right?
We always talk about an opportunity cost. Yeah, you could do those leg lifts and stuff, but the opportunity cost of the leg lifts is that you're not lifting weights. Yeah. So you're missing out on the benefits you could be. Yeah, you're still doing something, which is great, better than nothing. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to do something, you might as well get the most benefits that you can from the particular modality that you're trying to pursue.
Absolutely.
I think that's really important. Let's talk real quick we talked about selfishness and selflessness. Tell me, what does it take? What does it take to be a little bit selfish? Like, what does that mean? What can women do to be selfish? Like, what actions can I take to be a little selfish now so I can be more selfless later?
They might do a better job just using the word self-care, right? Okay. So because none of us want to think of selfish just sounds negative.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So, but we say it freely in that we need to be a little selfish, but self-care is like a huge thing that's, it's out there now. We all realize we need self-care. And I think what the most important thing that we're all slowly realizing, or, women are realizing, is self-care. I was just having a conversation with one of my ladies. I'm like, I want people to realize that self-care is not getting your nails done. It is not bubble baths. It's not drinking wine to relax every night. I'm not saying you can't do those things or there's anything wrong with it, or that I don't do any of those things. But true self-care is doing things we don't actually really probably feel like doing, right, in order to put ourselves first. So you can have the time factor as maybe a valid reason or possibly an excuse, right? When maybe the women you work with say, they're too busy they need to be with their kids, they need to do all these other things. Part of it might be an excuse, or maybe it really is the time factor. But that means we have to either carve out extra time, maybe in our lunch hour where we normally just sit and eat, or we get up an hour earlier and go to bed an hour earlier, or you do it at night and you stay an extra hour, or you skip that show, that you do, so that you have the time to do whatever it is that you need to do. Is it the workout? Is it the meditation? Is it the planning or making a good meal for yourself? That is self-care. Going to a Beauty Boost event is fun, but it's also self-care. You need to go do something for yourself, something that's going to pour into you. And things that pour into us typically take time away from the regular schedule. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So the regular schedule is work, pick up the kids, make dinner, all of those things. So we have to find a way to carve it in. I personally did feel that. I get that. So when I was a teacher and I was a school counselor, it didn't take me very long before I even had kids to go, okay, so when I have kids, how am I going to get all this accomplished that I'm currently doing, right? Getting my workout in, the meals, getting to work, sort of having a life, not much really at that time. I'm like, you know what? That's why the moms are skipping the workout. Mm. And this was a long time ago, right? People have more flexibility in their work now and in their jobs. But I was like, yeah, I can't do it. I can't just let go of my personal health and something that's I actually enjoy it. And it's a high priority to me now. And so that's how I ended up leaving that and looking for careers that allowed me to live life on my terms, be able to be home with kids, be able to have flexibility in my schedule. And then you become, when you're a high achiever, you work more than you would have if you had a regular job. And I'm like, I'd actually have more freedom if I worked 8 to 5. But
yeah, sure. I understand that. Yeah.
But at this point, I still make my schedule that I'm like, I'm not going to get, okay, what can I do right now? I can do something short, right? I can do a HIIT workout. This day it's going to be a walk. I still revolve my schedule around my self-care. And that's the way I wanted it to be. Not everyone has that drive. I think everyone has the opportunity, though.
They can get that drive if they take advantage of the opportunity, though. And the main takeaway that I got from what you just said is sometimes self-care isn't what you want to do. Mm-mm. Some people think of self-care as watching the show, but if they really wanted to care about themselves, they would turn the show off and maybe exercise for 20 minutes.
Yep.
And
or at least walk while you watch it, right?
Yeah, do something, get some activity, right? Yeah,
you need both.
That's just a very interesting way. Yeah. Because when you were like, self-care is not bubble baths. Like, man, that's the first thing I was thinking. Like when and please no one take this wrong, but when a woman tells me that they want some time for self-care, the first thing I think about is like nails done, baths, leave them alone, wine time, hang out with their friends, and which maybe that is self-care in some way, but for sure.
Yeah, definitely
like,
being with friends.
Because social is very important.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking like wine
not
while relaxing,
drinking,
watching TV. Yeah. That's the first thing that comes to my mind, and that's completely
drinking
wrong.
Is not self-care. I'm not saying I never drink, but I'm not calling it that, right?
Yes.
So self-care is just... It really is doing the things that are the hard things to do, to take care of yourself so that you're a strong, healthy vessel to be a good not just for the people around you, but for society.
Yeah, that's just a completely different way of thinking about self-care. So,
and it's not always easy. Even when you want to do it, it's not always easy to prioritize. I have definitely conquered or had to conquer or still conquer, like, I should get less sleep so that I can work out and I'm here earlier to help, or I didn't miss anything, or I got to every single thing plus the self-care, right? Whereas sometimes you have to compromise and be like, okay, I really want to go get my workout in today. I'd like to get at least 6 hours of sleep as well. Is that asking too much? No, I can take her and then you can meet us there.
Yeah, there's a compromise.
Like, what's wrong with that?
Right.
We think that's awful. Oh, no, I need to be the one, like, driving there, the one first there, the face of the woman that, you know, doesn't sacrifice a thing for herself. Whereas I've just gotten over the fact of I would never in the past have said, they said, where were you? And if I said I was working out, I would never have told them that, because that's like,
it's like it's taboo almost.
Yeah, it was. It maybe
that
isn't
is
as
crazy
much
to
then.
think
It was.
about.
I never wanted to tell people. Not that I did it, but if I was just, you know, not at something till later or whatever, or unavailable for a phone call or unavailable for a meeting that is with my business, not like it was scheduled, you know, for a job. I don't do it then. Why? What do you have going on? I don't need to tell you, first of all, but that's my gym time. So I used to feel bad about that. And now I'm like, no, everyone should do that.
Yeah, I think that is a great final thought. And way we can wrap this up is just remember that self-care really is so important, but sometimes it means doing the things that we don't necessarily want to do at that point in time. So maybe reevaluate your definition of self-care. Think about what Lori had to say about that. No one should feel pressured to be Wonder Woman all the time. You should do what needs to be done, what's best for your life and the people around you. And sometimes remember that means doing the things that you don't want to do right in the moment, but you know is best for you, your family, and your community in the long run. So any other final words?
I just love how you said what's best for your life, because most of us get caught up in what people think and what they think I should do and what's right and what are they going to think is the number one thing that holds people back from living their best life. So reevaluate that they are not in your everyday life. They're not in your future. They're not paying your bills. They're not there with your family. Stop worrying about what other people think and do what you know is right for yourself and your life and your family. Only
you can evaluate your life. So do that and then make the decisions that are necessary to improve it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. The Beauty Boost Houston.
Yes.
Right, on Instagram.
Yes.
Is that correct? Anything else you want to shout out real quick before we wrap up?
No, I just hope to see y'all at an event.
Yeah, sure.
So, no, you can't come.
What? They are women only?
They are women only, yes.
I might have to come and check one out just for, I'll let you know how it all goes for. But I'll keep you posted.
Man. You can be at one of our businesses though that serves, like if we have a partnership, like our vendors and our experience stations can be men. Yeah. But the actual women attending just for enjoyment, you know, to fill their cup, so to speak.
Sure.
They are women only events. But we have one every month. And when you go to Instagram, if you look in the bio, you're going to see a list of all the things coming up.
Sure. Yeah. We'd love to be a vendor or however we can support. Like I said, you know, a big part of this podcast is, you know, helping Houston become make its way up the ladder of health and fitness. And so whatever we can do to be a part of improving that, we want to be a part of it.
Yeah,
so we'd love to be there.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And we will see you guys next time.
All right. We appreciate you. Thank you.